They were laughing at his funeral. Full volume. Like they were at a damn cookout. That's what stuck with me. Not the hymn, not the flag on his casket. Just the sound of Chad and Riley, my nephews, bragging about the cars they were gonna buy with Grandpa's money. Dibs on a Lambo, Chad said, while chewing gum over the open grave. I'm thinking white with red interior. Riley high-fived him. Nah, I'm getting a penthouse in Miami. Grandpa owed us, after how cheap he was. They called him cheap. The man who mowed his own lawn at 83. Who fixed up our family home after the hurricane, with his own 2 hands. He wasn't cheap. He was careful. And they laughed at him. I kept my mouth shut. Just stood there with my hands in my jacket pockets, touching the small envelope he gave me before he died. Make sure they all show up to the will reading, he'd whispered. All of them. And what happened in that lawyer's office? Let's just say, the Lambo dream died real fast. I still remember the sound of Grandpa's screen door. That slow screech when you opened it, the clack when it slapped shut. Every Sunday, we'd drive out to his place. 30 miles each way, past the old mill, through the back roads with potholes that never got fixed. My wife hated the drive. My kids complained about the weak cell signal. But me? I never missed a Sunday. He'd be out on the porch with a glass of iced tea, in that folding chair with the duct tape on one armrest. Wore the same ball cap every time. USS Ranger, CV, 61. He was proud of that ship, even if no one else ever asked him about it. Truck holding up. He'd always ask, pointing to my F-150. Yeah, just past 200,000. He'd nod like I just told him I had a 3rd kid. That's the kind of man he was. Respected work, wear and tear, and things that lasted. The first crack started showing at Christmas. We always had it at my place after Mom passed. Grandpa would sit in his spot at the end of the table, near the window, by the plug where he charged his flip phone. That was his seat. Didn't even need to mark it. But 3 years ago, Chad's wife, Brittany, decided she wanted to rearrange for Flo. Whatever that means. They moved Grandpa to a metal folding chair near the bathroom. Didn't even ask. Just did it. When I walked in, he was sitting there, holding his plate on his lap. Quiet. You want your usual seat? I asked. He just shook his head. It's all right. I don't want to fuss. I looked over at Brittany. She was taking selfies next to the tree, pouting her lips while Riley and Chad messed with the speaker, blasting some awful remix of Jingle Bell Rock. I should have said something. I didn't. Next year was worse. Chad brought one of those Instagram cakes, red velvet with gold sprinkles. Walked in like he owned the place, holding it up like it was the Holy Grail. Cost me $400, he announced. Grandpa's paying for it anyway, right? Everyone laughed. Except Grandpa. He smiled, but I could see his hand tremble as he poured himself some cheap eggnog. Later, after most folks had left, I helped him load leftovers into his old Buick. You okay? I asked. He sighed. Funny thing, getting old. People stop seeing you. Start looking through you. I didn't know what to say. So I hugged him. First time I hugged him since I was a kid. He smelled like Old Spice and motor oil. You might think I'm being dramatic. Maybe you're thinking, so what? Families are weird. At least he wasn't alone. But he was alone. The man built everything. Paid off his mortgage in the 90s. Took care of Grandma until the cancer took her. Raised 2 kids, buried 1. Never took a handout. And now, every holiday, his own blood acted like he was some burden. Riley once told me, he hoped Grandpa kicked the bucket before college loans hit. Dude's like a walking piggy bank, he laughed. 10 mil just sitting there. If he's smart, he'll leave it to us now, not later. I said nothing. Because if I opened my mouth, I would have broken my own front teeth grinding them. He still mowed his own lawn. That was the thing that really stuck with me. 85 years old. Pushing that rusted old Toro up and down the patchy grass in front of his house. One time, I offered to get him a service. He refused. Saves me $40 a month, he said. You know how much that adds up to? Yeah, I said. Almost 10 million, apparently. He chuckled. Something like that. Then he squinted at me. Money's funny. Folks think it changes people. But it just shows you who they always were. 2 weeks before he died, we had coffee on his porch. Cold morning. He wore gloves with the fingers cut off, holding his chipped mug. I ever tell you what I want done with it all? He asked. The estate. He nodded. Looked me straight in the eye. Something good. Not loud. Not flashy. Real good. Then he reached into his coat pocket and handed me a small envelope. Unsealed. Just my name on it. Don't open it yet. Not until they're all there. I didn't ask questions. I just put it in my glove box, under the manual. He died in his sleep a week later. We found him in that same folding chair, on the porch. Mug still on the side table. Lawn half mowed. Chad showed up to the funeral in a rented Tesla. Riley wore a Rolex and called dibs on the house before the service ended. Gonna flip it, he said, like he was talking about a used lawnmower. I didn't say anything. I just touched the envelope in my coat pocket. Because I knew what was coming. And so did Grandpa. I kept Grandpa's envelope in the glove box for 2 weeks after the funeral. I'd open the truck just to look at it sometimes. Never touched it. Just stared at my name written in his shaky old handwriting. I don't know why I waited. Maybe part of me hoped I'd misread everything. Maybe I thought the family would surprise me, show an ounce of grace. Yeah. That was wishful thinking. The will reading got scheduled for the following Tuesday. I sent out a group text. Simple. Will reading. Tuesday, 11 a.m. Dawson and Keller Law. Mandatory. 5 minutes later, Brittany replied with a thumbs up emoji. Then came Chad. Finally. Lembo SCN. Riley followed with a gif of someone popping champagne. That's what they thought this was. A damn party. That weekend, Riley and Chad came over, just to check on the property. I was in the garage, fixing the shelf Grandpa built 20 years ago. Still solid. Just needed a new bracket. Riley peeked in. Yo, Uncle Mike. What's that thing worth? I looked up. What? The house. Market's hot. I bet this place could clear 7 figures easy. I stood up, dusted my hands. You're talking about Grandpa's house? Yeah, Chad added. We were thinking, maybe it makes sense to flip it now. Get ahead of the taxes, you know. You two don't own it, I said. They exchanged a look. Riley smirked. Not yet. That night, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the mortgage bill for my house. It was due Friday. $1,728. I'd scraped together $900 so far. I wasn't looking for a handout. Never had. But it stung to know those two were drooling over Grandpa's money while I was deciding whether to pay electric or groceries. My wife came in, saw the paper, saw my face. You all right? Yeah, I lied. She put a hand on my shoulder. You know he loved you the most, right? I nodded. But I didn't feel it. Not yet. Tuesday came. Everyone showed. Brittany wore sunglasses indoors, like she was avoiding the paparazzi. Chad had a brand new iPhone and kept taking selfies in the conference room. Riley brought his girlfriend, some influencer type who filmed the whole drive over, for content. The lawyer, Mr. Dawson, walked in holding a single manila folder. Sat down, opened it slowly. Thank you all for coming. As executor of Robert Keller's estate, I'm here to read his final will and testament. You could hear the air shift. Everyone leaned forward like kids on Christmas morning. Mr. Dawson adjusted his glasses. Robert Keller has left his entire estate, his home, savings, assets, and investments, totaling approximately $3 million, to the Midwest Engineering and Trade Scholarship Fund, established in his name. Silence. Then Brittany scoffed. Wait, what? All of it? Chad asked. The lawyer nodded. Yes. All of it. No, Riley stammered. That's gotta be wrong. He told us. He never told you that, I interrupted. They all turned to me. You just assumed, I said. Because you thought he was too old to think for himself. You treated him like a walking ATM with a heartbeat. Brittany stood up. There has to be a backup copy. A real will. There is no other version, Mr. Dawson replied, calm as a pond. However. He opened a small envelope. There is a personal note for each of you. He slid 3 small envelopes across the table. Chad tore his open. Inside was a single penny, taped to an index card. In Grandpa's handwriting. Start from here. Riley's face went red. Brittany threw hers on the floor. This is a joke, she said. He wouldn't do this. He couldn't. Mr. Dawson turned to me. Michael, he also left you something. I pulled out the envelope I'd carried since the funeral and placed it on the table. Already got it, I said. Outside, chaos broke loose. Brittany was pacing in the parking lot, screaming into her phone. I need a real lawyer, like now. Riley was kicking his car tire, yelling, I quit my job for this. Chad just stood there staring at the penny. I don't get it, he muttered. What does it mean? I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I drove straight to Grandpa's house. Parked out front. Sat there in the truck, looking at the folding chair still on the porch. The air smelled like cut grass and old wood. He wasn't rich because he got lucky. He was rich because he lived like every dollar meant something. Because it did. And now, hundreds of kids were gonna go to school because of him. Learn a trade. Build something real. No one would remember Riley's Rolex or Chad's stupid limbo dreams. But they'd remember Robert Keller. My father. The last real man in our family. The penny became a joke in the family group chat. Chad changed the name to The Inheritance Squad Money with Wings, and updated the icon to a photo of a single penny on a paper towel. Then came the memes. Riley posted a picture of a Lamborghini with the caption. Only 999,999,999 more to go. Hashtag thanks Grandpa. Brittany posted a TikTok of her dramatically, starting from zero, holding a Starbucks cup with a penny taped to it. Caption, when Grandpa goes full petty instead of generational wealth. I muted the chat. Couldn't delete it. I was still the admin. The thing was, it didn't stop there. They started circling the house like vultures. Grandpa's house. The one he built himself in 1971. The one with the fireplace that always smoked a little, the front porch that creaked just right, the garage still filled with coffee cans labeled with bolts and screws and half-used tubes of glue. I caught Chad on the lawn one afternoon with a tape measure. Measuring the fence line. You doing construction? I asked from the truck. He jumped. Tried to laugh. Just wondering what this could go for. Not saying it's mine, yet. It's not yours at all, I said. It's part of the scholarship now. He smiled. That smug little smirk. For now. A week later, I got the call from the city. Hey, just confirming, we received the zoning request for parcel 114B. What zoning request? I asked. The application to reclassify it for multifamily housing. Duplexes. Says here you're the primary contact. I almost dropped the phone. When I asked around, I found out Riley filed it. Used Grandpa's address. Somehow got himself listed as an interested party. I showed up at his apartment that night. Not to fight. Just to ask why. He opened the door shirtless, holding a vape pen. Some video game blaring in the background. You trying to sell the house? I asked. He didn't even blink. It's sitting there empty, man. That's a waste of land. It's not yours. I'm just saying, people need housing. It's not personal. I stepped forward. It's Grandpa's house. He shrugged. Was. I turned and left before I did something that would get me arrested. The next morning, I went to check on the house. The gate was broken. Inside, drawers had been emptied. Grandpa's old toolbox, gone. His coin jars, the ones he kept in the back closet, gone. Even the metal box that held his Navy medals. Empty. Only thing left was a note taped to the fridge. You're sentimental. We're efficient. Love, the inheritance squad. I sat down on the porch steps and stared at the yard. The folding chair was missing too. That night, I finally opened Grandpa's letter again. Read it for the 10th time. Michael, you were the only one who listened. If they come for the house, let them try. But you hold the keys now. Not just to the house. To how this ends. And taped behind the letter, I found the old deed transfer paperwork. Dated. Signed. Notarized. The house was never part of the scholarship. He left it to me. I didn't tell anyone. Let them keep assuming. Let them keep scheming. Let them bury themselves in their own greed. But I started spending my nights there. Sleeping on the couch. Making coffee with the ancient drip pot. Keeping the porch light on. I cleaned up the garage. Put the tools back where they belonged. Fixed the lock on the back gate. Repainted the shutters. It was mine now. But I wasn't fixing it for me. I was fixing it because he would've. One night, I caught Brittany on the porch, filming a live video. This old place is about to be a gold mine, y'all, she said to her phone. Watch this transformation. Gonna be a luxury flip with a vintage twist. She turned and saw me through the window. Her smile dropped. Get off the property, I said, stepping outside. You don't own it, she snapped. Yes, I do. She laughed. That's cute. No, the scholarship fund owns it, remember? You're just the janitor. I didn't respond. Just opened the screen door, went back inside, and came out with the paperwork. Held it out. She scanned it. Realized what it was. Oh, hell no. Then she left. Tires squealing down the road. The next day, I got hit with legal papers. Intent to contest will. Filed by Chad, Riley, and Brittany. They wanted to challenge the validity of the will, of the house deed, of everything. On what grounds? Emotional coercion, apparently. Claimed Grandpa was manipulated by me. That I turned him against the family. It was laughable. But it still cost money. Money I didn't have. I called Dawson, the lawyer. He sighed. You're within your rights. But they're going to try and bleed you dry. Delay you. Bury you in paper. Can they win? Not likely. But they can make you miserable. I got home and found my front tire slashed. A penny glued to the rim. That's when I stopped feeling sorry. Stopped hoping they'd see reason. And started preparing to bury them. They broke into the house. That was the line. Right there. No more excuses. No more, they're just kids. No more silence. I pulled into the driveway around 8:15 p.m. Figured I'd mow the lawn before dark and maybe fix that loose porch step. But something felt off the second I stepped out of the truck. Front door. Slightly open. Porch light. Smashed. And when I pushed the door, it creaked like it hadn't been opened gently. Inside, it looked like a raccoon had hosted a garage sale. Drawers yanked open. Picture frames off the wall. Cabinets half empty. The clock Grandpa made in high school, gone. His wedding ring box, usually tucked behind the bookshelf. Missing. And then I saw it. The Navy medals. Gone. All that was left was an empty shadow where the display used to hang. They stole from a dead man. Not for need. Not because they were starving or desperate. They did it to send a message. A few muddy footprints led through the house, right down the hallway, back to the coat closet. They'd found the wall safe. The one he installed back in the 80s. Didn't matter that I had already emptied it weeks ago. They tore it open with a crowbar. Left deep gouges in the wood paneling. On the floor below it sat a single penny. Taped to a post-it note that said, in fat black marker. "Wanna start from here? We will. Squad." I stood there with the note in one hand, the crushed frame of Grandma's photo in the other. And I felt something I hadn't felt since Dad's funeral. Not anger. Not grief. Humiliation. That night, I went straight to the police. Filed a full report. Gave them names, timelines, even photos of the note. The officer behind the desk looked like he'd rather be watching paint dry. "You're saying your nephews broke in?" "Yep. And your niece-in-law?" "She was there too." He tapped his keyboard slowly. "Any witnesses?" "No. But I've got the boot prints, the missing items, and this." I handed him the note. He barely glanced at it. "We'll file it, but with family, these things get complicated. Best to handle it civilly." "You mean they get away with it?" He didn't respond. I walked out before I said something that'd land me in handcuffs. 2 days later, I came home from work. Found a notice taped to my mailbox. Intent to freeze property transfer, temporary injunction filed. Filed by Chad, Riley, and Brittany. They were trying to block the house deed Grandpa left me. The same one notarized, signed, and filed by Dawson himself. They claimed undue influence. That I isolated an aging man from his family. That I manipulated him into changing his will and poisoned him against them. I laughed out loud on the porch. Full on barked. Then I sat down on the steps and nearly cried. The next morning, I got a call from my wife. I answered with, "Hey, I was just." "Where are you?" she snapped. "Home." "Why?" "Because I'm not. I'm at my sister's. With the kids." "What?" "Chad showed up yesterday. Said you're being sued for elder abuse. Said the house isn't really yours. That you're lying to everyone. And, honestly, Mike, I don't know what to believe anymore." Asterisk, you believe Chad? Over me? "I believe what I see." Her voice cracked. "You're living alone in a dead man's house. You're obsessed with all this. You look tired. You sound angry. I can't raise the kids in chaos." She hung up. That's when I realized, they hadn't just taken Grandpa's medals. They'd taken everything. My home. My family. My dignity. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat in the recliner, staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind knock a loose shutter outside. Same one Grandpa never got around to fixing. Around 3 a.m., I got up and opened the letter again. The one he gave me. The one that started all this. "You hold the keys now." I read it again and again. Then I opened the bottom drawer of the nightstand. Took out the manila folder I hadn't shown anyone yet. Inside were copies of everything. The will. The deed. The scholarship paperwork. Receipts. Tax forms. Medical records. Even a signed letter from Grandpa stating exactly why he left them nothing. He'd known this would happen. He'd planned for it. And I realized, I'd been on defense this whole time. Just trying to survive the hits. But maybe that wasn't what he meant. Maybe the point of giving me the keys wasn't to protect the house. Maybe it was to burn theirs down. I called Dawson first. Told him to dig into everything. Public filings. Trust loopholes. Past lawsuits. Brittany's small business finances. Riley's shady crypto nonsense. Chad's Instagram car rental scam. Then I called a friend I knew from high school. Works in media now. Local news. You want a story? I said. You got pictures? I got everything. He paused. You sure you want to go public? I looked out the window at the empty driveway. The quiet house. The broken photo frame. Yeah, I said. It's time. They came for me. Now I'm coming for them. I didn't shave for 2 weeks. Not because I forgot. Because I wanted the face in the mirror to look like how I felt, done. Worn out. Past the point of caring. They thought I was broken. That's what made this next part work so well. Because you never see a man coming when you think he's already lost. First thing I did. I got quiet. No more texts. No more emails. I let the lawsuit stew. I stopped answering calls from my wife. She stopped leaving voicemails. Just one text from her on a Tuesday afternoon. If you're trying to punish me, you're doing a great job. I didn't reply. Not out of spite. But because every ounce of energy had to go somewhere else now. Grandpa didn't raise a doormat. He raised a builder. I started with Riley. Crypto king. Professional vibe artist. No job in 3 years, but somehow driving a new BMW. I dug into his socials. His fake coaching site. His LLC, registered to a P.O. box in another state. The site said. Book a private crypto consult with Riley K., just $500 per hour. I booked one. Used a fake name and an email tied to an old phishing blog I'd abandoned. The Zoom call lasted 12 minutes. He pitched hard. Promised triple returns. Said he had secret access to pre-market tokens. His background was a fake penthouse. I could see the reflection of a ceiling fan in the window behind him. I recorded everything. Then I sent it to Dawson. My lawyer smiled so wide I heard it over the phone. Thank you, he said. We're gonna bury this clown. Next was Chad. He was still trying to get the house rezoned. Still acting like it was a done deal. I visited City Hall in person. Brought donuts. Smiled a lot. Talked slow. Used the words, confused old man, a couple times to grease the wheels. Then I requested the paperwork Riley had filed under my name. They handed it over. No questions. He'd forged my signature. Twice. I made copies. Had Dawson notarize them. Brittany was tougher. She wasn't stupid, just loud. Her TikTok page was full of those clean girl aesthetic videos. Pantry restocks. Haul videos. Bragging about manifesting generational wealth. Except that the kitchen in those videos was Grandpa's. She'd been sneaking into the house while I was at work. Filming staged content in the living room. Putting her logo over my table. The kicker. She listed the house as her business address on Etsy. I bought one of her products and had it shipped. When the mail arrived, it was addressed to Brittany Squad, 128, Keller Lane. My address. I filed a complaint with the postal inspector. Then I filed another one for fraud. By the second week, I had a folder thick enough to snap a rubber band. Everything I needed. All I had to do now, was let them step in it. That Friday, I called my buddy from the news station. Steve. He owed me one from back in the day, saved him from getting jumped behind a gas station after a poker game got out of hand. Got a package for you, I said. He picked it up in a manila envelope with no return label. The story went live the next week. 3 heirs, 1 inheritance, and $1 million meltdown. It didn't use their names, but it didn't have to. Photos blurred, voices changed, but anyone who followed them online knew exactly who it was. Influencer scams. Fake crypto consults. Zoning fraud. It was all there. The story ended with a shot of Grandpa's house. Just the porch, just the chair. Empty. The closing line. Sometimes, a man's real legacy isn't money, it's how far he'll go to protect the truth. They flipped. Riley went nuclear on Twitter, calling the station fake news. Britney threatened a lawsuit, which went nowhere. Chad tried to claim it was all AI generated. Then the IRS started sniffing around Riley's accounts. Then the city revoked the rezoning request. Then Britney's business account got flagged for address fraud and Etsy shut her page down. I watched it all unfold from Grandpa's porch. One quiet morning, just before sunrise, I sat with a cup of gas station coffee and read the new texts pouring into the old family group chat. Who sent the footage? This was calculated. We need to strike back. Then one from Riley. Bet it was Uncle Mike. Dudes playing chess while we're playing checkers. They were right. But they hadn't seen the endgame yet. Because this wasn't just about them losing. It was about Grandpa winning. The court hearing was scheduled for Monday. One last swing from their side. But I had one more card to play. And I saved it for the room where it would hurt most. Monday morning, I ironed my shirt. Nothing fancy. Just a button-up I used for funerals and job interviews. Still had a stubborn coffee stain near the cuff. I left it there on purpose. Let them see it. Let them think I came in underprepared. The courthouse smelled like pine-scented floor polish and burnt coffee. Same smell I remembered from my divorce hearing in '07. Back then, I'd felt small. Not this time. I sat on the left side of the room. Alone. No lawyer beside me. Dawson said I didn't need one today. This was their hearing, not mine. I was just the target. Chad strolled in first. Wearing sunglasses. Indoors. Behind him, Riley with that stupid haircut he got when he thought he was gonna be famous. Britney brought her ring light. I wish I was kidding. They took their seats on the right side. Whispering. Giggling like teenagers about to cheat on a test. They thought this was gonna be easy. The judge, a woman in her 50s with half-moon glasses, came in and sat down. All rise, the bailiff said. We did. Then the judge looked over the file. This is a request to challenge a verified estate document. Citing undue influence, coercion, and fraudulent deed transfer. She looked at me. You're Michael Keller. Yes, ma'am. You're representing yourself. Yes. She nodded. Then looked at the other side. And the petitioners? Chad stood. Yes, Your Honor. We're the, grandchildren of the deceased. And we believe our grandfather was manipulated. There's new evidence. She raised an eyebrow. New evidence. Riley stood. There's been a media campaign trying to smear us. Clearly someone is trying to hide something. Britney added, we believe Uncle Mike is using Grandpa's house for profit. You should see his garage. It's full of equipment. I smiled. Your Honor, I said, standing up. Would it be okay if I submitted some exhibits into the record? She nodded. You may. I handed the clerk 3 folders. Labeled, A, B, and C. She opened A. Inside was a printed transcript of Riley's crypto call, with audio. Folder B had Britney's business filings. Her Etsy account. The fake address. And C. A signed letter from Grandpa himself. Written 6 months before he died. He had it notarized at the bank. In it, he laid out every reason why they were getting nothing. He wrote. These kids treat hard work like an infection. I'm not punishing them. I'm setting them free. The room went quiet. The judge skimmed the letter, lips pressed thin. Then she leaned forward. Ms. Britney, is this your Etsy account? Silence. Mr. Riley, are these your recorded statements? Riley squirmed. I mean, yeah, but that's out of context. She looked over her glasses. The context seems quite clear. Then to Chad. And these zoning forms, this is your signature. I didn't forge anything. Did your uncle authorize you to file them? No, he mumbled. The judge leaned back. Well. I see no credible claim of coercion here. In fact, I see evidence of coordinated manipulation, on your part. Riley stood up. So what, that's it. We just lose. No, the judge said. You never had anything to lose. They followed me outside. I was halfway to the truck when I heard the gravel crunch behind me. You think you won? Chad hissed. This isn't over. I turned. You broke into a dead man's house. You forged my name. You lied in court. He stepped forward. You think people care about court? About paper? It's all about what people see. And they saw you dragging your family through the mud. I looked him in the eye. Then I said the last thing he expected. I agree. He blinked. What? You're right. Perception matters. Then I opened the truck. Pulled out a small case. Handed it to him. He opened it. Confused. Inside was a hard drive. With a sticky note on top. Live stream footage. February 6th, kitchen entry. Audio included. His face drained. You bugged the house. No. I secured it. You left me no choice. Riley took the drive. What is this, blackmail? No. It's insurance. I started the engine. And trust me. I won't need to use it, unless you give me a reason. I pulled out, watching them shrink in the rearview. That should have been enough. Should have been the end. But then Dawson called. Hey. Just got off the phone with the scholarship board. Yeah. There's something you need to see. And just like that, I knew. It wasn't over. Not yet. Dawson met me at the diner just outside town. He didn't order coffee. Just dropped a manila folder on the table between the salt shaker and the napkin holder. What is it? I asked. He looked tired. But satisfied. Proof, he said. They didn't just want the inheritance. They tried to kill the scholarship. Inside the folder were emails. Dozens. Between Brittany and some third-rate attorney she found online. Between Riley and a private donor relations consultant. Chad sent one to the board president of the scholarship fund himself. They called the fund a mistake. Said Grandpa wasn't of sound mind. Claimed I manipulated him. Offered to renegotiate the donation. Quietly. In exchange for a payout. They were trying to claw it back. Even worse. The board considered it. Why? I asked Dawson. He shrugged. People panic when lawyers get involved. Especially ones dangling $10 million in front of a struggling education fund. I stared at the stack of paper. They weren't just greedy. They were trying to erase him. The last thing Grandpa ever did, his final gift, was under attack. And that's when I felt it. Not just anger. Not even vengeance. Purpose. We started with the school. The university had announced the scholarship publicly, but with a generic title, the Keller Technical Opportunity Grant. No mention of Grandpa. No backstory. Just a line item in a financial report. I scheduled a meeting. Sat across from the board director, a man who looked like he slept inside a blazer. We appreciate your involvement, Mr. Keller, he said. But I assure you, the scholarship is fully intact. I read the emails, I said. He froze. I leaned in. You let my nephews pitch a buyback. They made a proposal. We declined. You entertained it. That's the problem. He shifted in his seat. It wasn't a formal negotiation. You didn't think I'd find out. I didn't think it was relevant. I opened my folder. Dropped a photo of Grandpa on the table. From the 80s. Covered in grease, smiling next to a rebuilt engine. This is Robert Keller, I said. He worked 40 years at a tool and die plant. Never made more than 55 grand a year. Put 2 kids through college. Paid off his mortgage in 1993. Died with $10 million in the bank and never bragged once. I pulled out a second page. Here's the story of how he left it all to strangers, because his own family spit on his name. The director looked down at the photo. Then back at me. You're right, he said quietly. We'll rename the fund. Full honors. Press release. Public ceremony. 2 weeks later, the headline ran in the local paper. Robert Keller Legacy Fund to support 100+ trade students a year. A man of grit, not greed, to be honored at campus unveiling. Right next to the article was a quote. From me. His grandkids wanted to buy Lamborghinis. He wanted someone to learn how to weld. Riley lost it first. He called me, voice shaking. You're really doing this? Already done. You think you're a hero now? Everyone's sending me hate mail. I let the silence answer. They're canceling me over a dead guy. No, I said. They're canceling you over a living one. Click. Brittany posted a crying video on her backup Instagram. Y'all don't understand, she sobbed. That house was part of our legacy too. He raised us. We deserve some of it. She zoomed in on the porch. Didn't realize her tripod caught the street sign behind her. One of my old co-workers saw it. Tagged me. I sent it straight to the Attorney General's office. Turns out. Fraudulently claiming a property address for business income, after being warned, is a second-degree felony in our state. They opened an investigation the next morning. And Chad? Oh, sweet Chad. He tried to save face by going public. Released a statement to a shady podcast claiming he was the one fighting to protect the scholarship from me. I loved my grandfather, he said. But Mike twisted everything. We were just trying to preserve the family name. Unfortunately for him, the podcast ran the wrong B-roll. Used a clip from the will reading. Where Chad was quoted saying, "Dibs on a Lambo." That would have been enough. But Grandpa didn't raise me to stop halfway. So I went back to the house. Sat on the porch. Same chair. Same iced tea. Stared out at the cracked driveway. And I made one more call. To Steve, the news guy. You still got one more story in you. He laughed. Only if it ends with fire. It does. I gave him everything. The emails. The recordings. The forged documents. The court files. The hard drive with the break-in footage. And the part one hadn't told anyone. The fund wasn't just a donation. It was a trust. Meaning Grandpa's house. It wasn't mine. It belonged to the trust. And the board had agreed to turn it into something new. Something public. Something permanent. They were about to lose more than money. They were about to lose their history. They showed up before the press did. Black SUV. Sloppy parking job. Doors half open, like the car was too hot to finish closing. Chad stormed onto the lawn first, shouting before his shoes hit the grass. You think this is funny? Riley followed, holding his phone like a weapon. This is a hit job. A full-blown smear campaign, you did this. Brittany came last, stomping in stilettos like she was walking into a courtroom on a soap opera. Where's the trust rep? She snapped. We're not letting you turn this into some community dump. I stood on the porch with my coffee, watching them melt down like candles in the sun. The new sign sat in the front yard behind me. Covered with a tarp. Still waiting. I told you, I said. The house wasn't mine. Then what the hell was all that in court? Chad shouted. I was protecting it, until it belonged to someone who deserved it. The news van pulled up behind them. Too late. The cameras were already rolling. A few reporters leaned out with mics. One shouted, "Is this the Keller house?" Another, "How do you respond to the allegations of fraud?" Riley turned fast. "We didn't steal anything. This is character assassination. The media is lying." "Sir," one reporter cut in, "you were recorded offering fake crypto advice to a minor. We've got the footage." Riley's mouth snapped shut. That's when the trust director pulled in. Quiet sedan. Navy suit. Calm expression, like a funeral director who's seen worse. He walked past them like they weren't even there. Nodded to me. "You ready?" he asked. I nodded back. He stepped up to the sign, grabbed the edge of the tarp, and pulled. The cloth dropped to the grass. The crowd leaned in. It read. The Robert Keller Skills Center. Built from grit, not greed. Coming spring 2026. Free training for trades, veterans, and returning citizens. Brittany screamed. No. No. This is our legacy. Not some handyman shelter. Chad lunged toward the sign like he could rip it out of the ground. I stepped off the porch, blocking him. "You touch that sign," I said, "and you'll leave with fewer fingers than you started with. You don't scare me." "No," I said. "But your own reflection should." He stared at me, eyes wide, fists clenched. But he didn't swing. Because behind him, the cameras were rolling. Riley tried a different angle. "This is still family property. He wouldn't have wanted it this way." He was confused. "You took advantage. You mean the man who left you a single penny taped to a note?" I snapped. He was clearer than he'd ever been in his life. "You're twisting this." Brittany screamed. "He loved us." "No," I said quietly. "He hoped for you." "That's not the same thing." One reporter stepped closer. "Mr. Keller, is this true? That your father left the entire house to the trust?" "Yes." "Why?" I looked at the sign. Then at the 3 vultures on my lawn. Then back at the reporter. "Because the people standing behind that camera, they're the ones Grandpa cared about. The ones who still build things." Brittany tried one last time. Voice high and breaking. "This isn't what he wanted. You just wanted to humiliate us." "No," I said. "You did that part." Within hours, the video went viral. 50,000 views by dinner. By the next morning. National coverage. 3 heirs. 1 penny. 10 million in karma. My phone didn't stop buzzing. Everyone had an opinion. Some called me a hero. Others said I went too far. A few said they'd done the same, if they'd had the guts. Riley lost 3 brand deals. Chad's podcast got taken off 2 platforms. Brittany deleted all her socials and claimed mental health leave from her Etsy store. Then Etsy banned her anyway. And the best part? I didn't lift a finger. I just turned on the light, and let them reveal themselves. The week after the unveiling, I found something taped to my truck windshield. A penny. But this time, no note. Just a greasy thumbprint. I smiled. Tossed it in the glove box with the others. I started cleaning out the garage. We were keeping the old structure, renovating it into classrooms. Found Grandpa's toolbox buried in the back. Covered in dust. Untouched since the break-in. Inside. A folded sheet of paper. My name on it. I sat on the concrete and read it. His handwriting, crooked but strong. "Proud of you. I knew you'd hold the line. Some people inherit money. You inherited me." I sat there for a while. Just breathing. Hands on the metal lid. Eyes burning. They thought the house was the prize. They were wrong. The prize was knowing I never sold out. That when it counted, I stood up. Next week, demolition starts. We're keeping the porch. Reinforcing it. We'll turn it into the main entrance. Kids will walk through the same doorway he built with his bare hands. Every single day. And I'll be here to see it happen. They stopped calling after the fundraiser. The Skills Center held a small community dinner. Folding chairs. Crock-pots. Maybe 60 people total. Most of them had dirt under their fingernails. Not a single Keller grandkid in sight. Riley sent one last email. Subject line, truce. I didn't open it. Brittany tried to show up uninvited during the first planning committee meeting. Said she was reclaiming her seat at the table. The security guard asked if she'd like to volunteer as a janitor. She hasn't been back since. Chad cornered me outside a hardware store 2 weeks later. You win, he said. I just looked at him. He looked tired. Real tired. Like a man who finally ran out of lies and was starting to feel the weight of what was left. You happy now? He added. I sipped my coffee. Let it settle in my chest before I answered. No, I said. But I'm done. He nodded. Eyes darted away like a kid who knew better than to ask again. And then he said it. Hey. You still got that penny? I pulled it out of my pocket. Held it up between 2 fingers. He looked at it like it might bite him. I flipped it toward him. Let it hit the ground between us. Start from there, I said. He didn't pick it up. The house is gone now. Porch is still standing. Reinforced, just like we planned. We kept the screen door, too, still screeches when you open it, still clacks shut like it always did. First student class starts in March. One of them is the son of the guy who helped Grandpa fix our roof after that hurricane back in '08. He's going into HVAC. Says he wants to start his own business. Said he couldn't afford school before the scholarship. I stop by every Sunday. Same as I always did. Sit on the porch. Drink the cheapest gas station coffee I can find. Let the wind blow through that creaky old oak tree across the street. I don't need to say anything. He already knows. Funny thing is, they still think this was about revenge. But it never was. It was about respect. About memory. About him. Somewhere, out there, I bet they're still complaining. Still scheming. Still blaming everybody but themselves. But this time, there's no inheritance left to chase. Just the chair. And the penny. And the silence. One reporter asked me, off the record, if I ever regretted how far I went. I looked her dead in the eye. No, I said. They were digging a hole. I just let them keep the shovel.